Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk about asset allocation, and I have spoken a lot about asset allocation in the past. Today I'm going to have an example also, and so therefore it's going to be a little more interesting. So 2 times it has happened that during a lecture that I was giving, a person walked in and completely contradicted what I said. So once I was giving a lecture and one entrepreneur walked in and he said, so what has Subra been telling you? So somebody said, Subra said that if you don't invest in equities, you cannot retire. So that person said, but I have never invested in equities and I think I will be able to retire. And then he went on, spoke for some time, and then he left. He had just a small intervention, maybe 10 minutes, and after that event, the students asked me, but Subra, this man is saying that he never invests in equities, and how do you say that you have to invest in equities? I said, please understand his profile, right? He's a businessman, and he was controlling about 70-80% of his company, if not more. The only people who are holding share were some friends and relatives who had not got any return for the past few years. And I said, his whole life is equity, right? When you are taking a chance with your whole life, which means you're doing business, you will not invest in equities. I would not ever ask such a person to invest in equities. The other person who came and said, asset allocation, I don't do any asset allocation, was a person who had, who also said, I don't do any asset allocation, all my money is in equities. So after he left, again the students look at you accusingly and say, Arey, but Subra, you said you have to do asset allocation, but this man doesn't do any asset allocation. I said, first of all, he had no business talking about a subject which he doesn't understand. He says he does not do asset allocation, and that's a bluff. He has a lot of money in debt also, but let us look at it this way. He had when he was talking, today his net worth must be more. When he was talking, he had a net worth of 10,000 crores. Okay. He was a partner of a company which was managing assets for others. It was doing a lot of other businesses. He had a dividend income in excess of at least 100 crores to the best of my knowledge. He had a salary of about 60 crores. Why would such a person ever have to do asset allocation? It doesn't matter, because even if you forgot to invest 1 year's assets, which were the dividend, that would still be 100 crores lying somewhere in your savings bank account or in your liquid account. That was sufficient for the next 50 years of his life, right? Even assuming he was spending 2 crores a year, which he was not. I don't think his expenses were more than 10-12 lakhs a year, right? So what are we talking about? Such people do not need to do asset allocation, right? And typically, if you are a professor at IIT and you know that till the age of 68 you're going to get your salary, and after that you're going to get a pension, all your assets can be in equity. But if you are a equity trader, a lot of your assets should be in debt, right? Because your life and your assets both can't be in equity. Now, this is very important in understanding asset allocation, and I've always felt asset allocation has to be to your needs. If Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and Niranjan Hiranandani woke up one morning with each other's portfolio, maybe the amount would be the same, but they would both get absolutely scared, and I wouldn't even say goosebumps, they would be shit scared, and they would call up somebody and say, there is a problem with my asset allocation, right? So one person would have made money in real estate, one person would have made money in equities. Both are comfortable with that asset class. So the asset class that you are comfortable with, the amount of money that you have, the age at which you are, the confidence that you can rebuild or restructure, the fact that you have a rich parent to fall back on, the fact that you have a rich wife to fall back on, a rich husband to fall back on, or children are doing extremely well, all these factors decide your asset allocation. Now look at the asset allocation of one person who sent me a mail, and since he's anonymous, let's call him Ram. And he says, I would like to be anonymous. I'm a long time reader of your blog. I know he's a long time reader of my blog because of his email ID. And I've learned a lot from you. Thank you. and I noticed that you're covering followers queries in your YouTube videos. Look, followers is a word which YouTube is using. You can just say reader or viewer, doesn't matter. I'm 52 years, my wife is 50 years of age. We are both professionally qualified and in corporate sector jobs. Our daughters are 20 and 16, currently in colleges, and will be pursuing professional degrees. Whether they will go abroad, we do not know at this stage. Our post-tax income is about 55 lakhs. We spend about 18 lakhs, which is most of it is in college fees, and we are able to save about 35 lakhs a year, which is about 3 lakhs per month. Our current net worth is about 18 crores. We have 15.5 crores in financial assets and 2.5 crores of real estate. In 13 crores are in diversified equity funds and 1.5 crores in direct equity. So direct equity for this man is very small, but he still has some direct equity. When you have direct equity and mutual funds, find which is doing better. If mutual funds are doing better, there is no justification even for 1.5 crores in direct equity. But if you find that your direct equity is doing much better than your mutual funds, then throw away some mutual funds and get some direct equity. This ratio to me looks very skewed favoring mutual funds. So of course it could be all or none, but it doesn't matter even if you leave it like this. I have 1 crore in short-term debt and PF. I don't see why you should not be pumping up your PF. You don't need to have anything in any other debt instrument, because if you and your wife can pump in a lot more money into your PF, you still have some liquid money. Maybe 50 lakhs you will keep it in some short-term debt fund, but you could put a lot more money into your own PF if your company does not have a limit, right? When the company is managed by its own trustees, they put a limit, but otherwise if you don't have any such limit, please pump that up more. Out of 2.5 crores of assets, we live in one, and another one is given on rent. It gives us annual rent of about 5 lakhs. We have paid off all the loans. Our salaries are plateaued, and due to slow growth in these sectors and career stages, our income is a much smaller percentage of our expenses, but our incomes are not growing as much as our net worth is growing. Our post-tax income is about 3% of net worth, and our expenses are about 1% of net worth. Looking at expenses as a percentage of net worth is a good thing to do. Very rarely do people do. So if you're spending 1% of your net worth, assuming that the markets don't crash from now or does not even grow from now, and there is no inflation, you have 100 years expenses, so which is more than sufficient for a 50-year-old. So yes, you're very well off in terms of expenses. You will never have to worry. And none of our assets are any inheritance. We have built them over the past 25 years by saving and investing. I have an understanding of financial markets, and that I think is fairly obvious. And because of my finance degree, etc., and we are not looking, is this a good asset allocation? What we have done, we have consciously front loaded equity investments, which means they've done all their equity investments in the beginning of their life and benefited from past cycles and some high growth direct equity. Largely net worth of about 20-25 crores is caused also by a big ESOP, but he has not mentioned any ESOP, so it could be just some direct equity. We started investing in debt funds only now, and etc., and if we plan to invest mainly in short term and VPF. Correct, very good. That's exactly what I said. Voluntary PF you should pump up, and that you are already planning to do. I plan to increase debt from 1 to 2.5 crores with new savings. Makes sense. The 2.5 crores should cover 10 years of annual expenses and still leave 1 crore for elder daughter's post-graduation expenses. What is your view of this approach? See, whoever you are, let me call you Mr. Ram. You have a surplus, you have an excess of money. Here really doesn't matter how you do your asset allocation. Yes, it has to last next 50 years. Since your expenses are about 10 lakhs a year, you need about 3 crores. So anything above 3 crores asset allocation will not matter. At your level of riches, asset allocation will not matter. This is good, this is comfortable. Maybe you can put a little more in VPF, which you have said, and I think you're perfectly online, and this gives you comfort. If you can sleep at night, you're not worried about where your next meal will come from. It doesn't matter beyond that. You don't have to get it perfectly. This is good enough. If you are happy, this is great. You don't need any change at all. God bless. Thank you.